All right, so we're about to dive into a spiritual dialogue that pretty much challenges everything we think we know about reality, about guilt, and especially about forgiveness. It all comes from these conversations between a guy named Gary and two beings who call themselves ascended masters. Think of them as super enlightened spiritual teachers. And trust me, their ideas might just change how you see, well, everything.
You know, this entire incredible journey kicks off with this one question. It's a question I think a lot of us can relate to. Gary, our guy at the center of all this, is wrestling with that classic spiritual problem. How do you walk a spiritual path without feeling guilty about the messy, physical, human parts of being alive, especially sex?
So, what's really going on here? Well, Gary's caught in this classic trap. His spiritual side versus his physical desires. He feels like his own body is just this big temptation, and he's basically asking how he can live a normal life and not be crushed by guilt. I mean, who hasn't felt that at some point?
And the answer he gets, it's really interesting. The teaching says that we turn things, like sex, into idols. They become these false substitutes for our true spiritual self. We think these outside things are going to complete us, that they'll fix that inner feeling of being small or unsafe. But it's a trap.
So you can really see the two choices laid out here. On one hand, you've got the ego's path. It's all about chasing those false associations, and it always ends in guilt. But then there's the spirit's path, which offers something totally different: forgiveness, miracles. And that leads to peace, to what the teachings call our natural inheritance, which is way, way better than any temporary pleasure.
Okay, so from this really personal internal struggle, the conversation just blows up. It starts tackling some of our culture's biggest idols, those deeply rooted beliefs we have about history, religion, and sex. The argument is that a lot of what we've been taught is built on some pretty shaky, false ideas.
Okay, let's take priestly celibacy. The source material points out that for more than 750 years after the church was founded, priests could totally be married. Many were. It wasn't until 1088 that a pope made celibacy mandatory. So the point is, it seems to be a man-made rule, not some original command from God.
And all of this leads to a pretty radical claim. This idea that sex is bad or sinful, according to these teachings, that never came from a divine source. It's completely made up by people. Thinking there's something wrong with sex is kind of like thinking there's something wrong with eating. They're just normal things a body does.
And this is where things get really controversial. The teachings just flat out contradict mainstream history. They claim Jesus wasn't celibate at all. He was married to Mary Magdalene, and she wasn't a prostitute, she was his beloved wife. So from this perspective, holiness isn't about rejecting your body in disgust. It's about realizing the body is ultimately insignificant compared to who you really are, spirit.
So we've got all these big, abstract ideas floating around. But how do they hold up in the real world? Like the really real world, when things get ugly? Well, the story takes a sharp, dramatic turn right here to answer that very question.
The date is September 11th, 2001, and Gary, just like millions of us, is glued to his TV watching this absolute nightmare unfold. It was this moment of intense, collective trauma, an event that would make the whole idea of forgiveness seem, well, almost insane.
But right there, in that moment of just total horror, this core idea from his spiritual study pops into his head. The idea that all miracles are the same, that forgiving someone for cutting you off in traffic is, on a spiritual level, no different than forgiving this. Could it really be that simple? Could he actually refuse to let these horrific images destroy his peace?
The whole world was faced with a choice. Two paths. Path 1, judge. This comes from fear, and its result is more conflict, more war. Path 2, forgive. This comes from love, and its result is the peace of God. For Gary, sitting there, he knew what his job was. He had to forgive.
It's like he could almost hear his teachers asking him this very question. And it really hits home, doesn't it? It highlights this huge responsibility. I mean, if the people studying forgiveness don't practice it when it's hardest, then who will? When would it even matter?
And just when you think you've kind of got a handle on all this, the story takes a turn that is just mind-bending. Seriously, you might want to buckle up for this next part, because our whole understanding of who we are and even time itself is about to get flipped completely upside down.
So Gary's having his final chat with his spiritual guides, Arthan and Persa. He just casually mentions how he wishes he could have known the Apostle Thomas from 2,000 years ago, and that one little comment
It just opens the floodgates for an absolutely unbelievable revelation. And there it is. Persa, one of the masters, just drops this bombshell. Gary, you were the Apostle Thomas in a past life. But wait, it gets even weirder. She then tells him that in his next life, he's going to become her. He's going to be Persa.
How is that even possible, right? Well, it all comes down to this idea they call holographic time. The basic concept is that time isn't a straight line. It's not past, then present, then future. Instead, it's all happening at the exact same moment. And this allows a higher power to use your future enlightened self, in this case, Persa, to reach back and help heal your past and present selves.
So this is the whole holographic plan in a nutshell. Gary lived as Thomas. He's now living as Gary. He will live as Persa. But from a higher perspective, it's all one big simultaneous event, which means he's literally helping himself across different lifetimes. The forgiveness you're practicing now, it's not just for you. It's healing your past and paving the way for your future. Wild, right?
So, what is the end game here? What's the point of all this? The deconstruction of history, the radical forgiveness, the time-bending revelations? Well, it all leads to one final ultimate purpose.
And here it is. The point isn't to fix the world or have a nicer dream. According to this spiritual path, the whole goal of salvation is simply undoing. It's about letting go of all the false beliefs, all the guilt, all the illusions we've piled on top of ourselves, until the only thing left is the truth.
And this really gets to the heart of it. The goal isn't to have a better dream. It's to wake up from the dream entirely. And what happens when you wake up from a dream in the morning? Poof, it's just gone. It disappears because it was never really there to begin with.
In their final message to Gary, the two distinct voices of Arton and Persa actually merge into one, and together they describe this final moment. The false universe of separation just vanishes, and all that's left is the unified reality of God. It's a return to the wholeness that we never actually lost.
And so, that leaves us with this final, profound question. After going on this journey through all these radical ideas about guilt and time and forgiveness, we have to ask ourselves, if this whole life, this entire universe is really just a dream, what would it actually take, and what would it even feel like to finally, truly wake up?